Welcome to the cheer athlete. I want to know, does your athlete have a round off and a back handspring, but has trouble connecting them together? This could be because the chest is dropping just after the round off. It could be because they're sitting back into the back handspring. Maybe they are losing momentum going backwards. Maybe they are just heavy and slow between the two skills. And maybe it just feels stuck and they can't connect. And that's their intent and goal for the season is to gain power and make this feel better. It's not always a flexibility problem. It's not always a technique problem. Sometimes the athlete actually needs more strength and power to help maintain the posture and the transfer force. So in today's episode, we're going to cover why chest position matters, how strength affects tumbling, 3 exercises that I recommend to help this problem, and signs that the issue is more of a strength versus a technique issue, and common mistakes that coaches make with tumbling and conditioning. Welcome to the Cheer Athlete Podcast, where we bring coaches, parents, and athletes expert tips and advice to help keep cheerleaders healthy, strong, and at the top of their game. Now let's go. So I do have notes, so bear with me as I scroll sometimes to look for them, because I wanted to make sure that I had this in a good outline form and I don't miss anything. So why does chest position matter in tumbling? Mechanics wise, the round off is meant to be a rebound going up and back, right? We land the round off and we're supposed to spring up and then go back. And the athlete needs to actually transfer force efficiently into the back handspring. So we get the round off and we get that power, but we're not necessarily going up and back. And that's something that your tumbling coaches can help you determine a little bit more of. When your chest drops, you lose power. So your chest is coming forward and you lose that momentum of going backwards. It slows the connection because you are not able to get that spring from the legs and your center of mass is more forward. You get more dependent on your arms, you get the timing off, and there's increased stress on both the lower back and the shoulders. So really important that we work on keeping the chest up and learning how to do this. Cheer athletes will tend to cheer and tumble when they're fatigued. We're pushing through routines, we're pushing through practice. Maybe we're doing tumbling after jumps. Maybe you're on the spring floor or at the high school floor, and it's the difference in mechanics is different, and so that's going to change how your body reacts. When you're tired, you're not as quick to keep that momentum going, keep that power going. So tumbling's not just about the shapes that you're in, but it's about producing and transferring force while maintaining posture at a speed. And posture may be dynamic in that moment. So you might hear some coaching cues to help you with this: to push the floor away from you, to keep your chest tall, to snap down and to rebound up. I know I used to give that cue all the time, like when you land your round off, then spring up and rebound, and driving through the hips. Those are all great coaching cues to help make it a little bit faster and making momentum go in your favor. How do we know if it's a strength issue or a technique issue? If it's a strength issue, you might understand the correction, but maybe you can't maintain it. So they understand, okay, I know I need to drive off the ground and I need to spring back or get my rebound out of that, but they can't physically do that. They don't have the strength to be able to push and get off the ground. So maybe that might look good for 1 or 2 reps and then it falls apart when they get tired. The consistency of it disappears. As you're getting tired and maybe they come into practice and they're able to do it right away, but then 3 or 4 reps in and they're not so much able to do it. That's a fatigue factor and doesn't have to do with the positioning. And if you just keep repeating yourself to them, hey, you're not getting your shape, hey, you're not getting your rebound, they're likely not able to do that because they don't have that endurance and the ability to carry that endurance and power forward as they are getting more and more tired. So the answer is not do more, if maybe do less or do something different. If your standing back handspring looks better than your round off back handspring, the round off actually adds velocity and force demand. So you have to be able to go faster and you have to be able to land the force. The athlete might not be strong enough to be able to control the rebound in that. So really working on improving strength to help get that power out of the round off to be able to control the velocity of getting back into that back handspring. Perhaps they may collapse during the rebound. This will be when that chest drops. So if they come out of their round off and they are kind of chest drops down, or maybe their knees bend more than we like them to. We'd like to be in just a little bit of an athletic stance, but not into like a deep squat. If your hips are staying behind you and not exploding and going forward as you go backwards, that's going to create more difficulty in getting into that handspring. Or if you're sitting too much, and I absolutely used to teach this going through drills, we teach them to sit before we throw, but we need to actually sit and lean back and get the hips in the right position there. And that will help the mechanics of being able to do that. Because if you sit back too far, your center mass dumps backwards. If the technique looks fine slowly, but then as you start to put them together and put the speed together and it falls apart, that the full tumbling pass is going to look differently. So the skill may be exposing a physical limitation. That's something to look at. If they are fine when they do it slow, if you're fine, your round off looks amazing, your back handspring, standing back handspring looks amazing, you try to connect them, that might be a physical limitation and needing to adapt for that. And not technique, but more strength than technique. And then the fifth sign that it might be more of a strength issue than a technical issue if there's poor jumping and landing mechanics outside of tumbling. So when you land your toe touches, if you are landing with your knees collapsing, if you're landing and losing balance, if your jump height is not high, not talking the spread of the legs, but if you can't actually jump high, that's going to give you it's not going to give you the power you need to be able to do your handspring. And if they have difficulty controlling one-legged position. So a movement screen that I include in all of my movement screens for all my athletes is, can they stand on one leg and can they keep their hips level, or are they really wobbling and dumping over? You might ask, why is that important in a two-legged handspring? Well, we need the hip control, and standing on one leg really identifies separately which one might be the issue. And do you have enough outside control through your glute medius and your glute maximus, your quads and your core to maintain and hold everything stable? So that's actually a great test to see, can they stand on one leg? I also look at landings. If they're landing and they're just coming down smack hard, those hard landings means they don't have that control. And that comes with strength and training power as well. What signs might it be that it might be more of a technique than strength? Throwing the head back. So if they're leading and getting the head back first before the rest of their body, that could be more technique. If the arms arrive late and not hitting at the right time. If in your round-offs you're landing unevenly with your feet, that might be a poor technique issue. Poor timing and getting the hands down. Again, that's arriving late compared to when your body's going over, and then directional errors as well. Technique issues often improve quickly with cueing. I mean, they might need repetition a little bit, but as you start to hear those cues and you kind of put yourself into the body position before you go, that usually can get better quickly. Strength issues usually show up as inconsistency or breakdown under speed and fatigue, and strength changes take time to actually get strength changes. You can get neurological changes and the body will learn relatively quickly in like 4 weeks or so, but true strength and really developing power takes a good amount of time. And when we stop doing the work, we lose it. So it's really important to keep doing our strength work in the process. Just as a note and something I'd love to have you think about, sometimes athletes are just trying to create power from a position they cannot actually control. So technique is very important, but they need to have controlled technique and controlled positioning and be able to do that in the lower levels to be able to progress on. Let's talk exercises. This is where my forte is. I don't teach tumbling, but I've heard those cues along the way. It all makes sense, and you need to have the strength before developing the power and the control of it. The first exercise I'm going to talk about is not the first exercise I want you to learn how to do, because I think you need to learn the other ones first, but I think it's one of the most important exercises that will help, and it's relatively easy to learn once you get the mechanics down. These are kettlebell swings. A kettlebell swing is when you hinge at the hip, your hip goes backwards, and the bell goes between your legs, and then you chop up quick. Now, I like to teach a hard style, like strong first, in that we chop the hips, come up, and we pop so the arms are straight out. We end with the bell here. And as you learn, it'll just float there. So it's not really how high the bell can go. Reaching and going over overhead is a snatch. That's also an incredible exercise to help with this. And a clean, when you come up and you pull, you whip it, and you come up into your chest tight. Both great exercises, but those are added bonuses. Those are progressions from a swing. You've got to learn how to do a kettlebell swing properly first before you progress. So we really get into hip extension as we bend at the hips, and then we pop forward quickly to get that hip extension, which is what we need as we push off our legs and go backwards. So it develops a lot of strength and power in that. It strengthens the glutes and the hamstrings, the back of the body. It strengthens your posterior core, including your lower back, and your core, your anterior core. As you come up, when we hit our top position, it actually should feel like a plank. So we're really doing a lot of strength and work with that. Now, I like kettlebell swings also for conditioning, and you would do maybe more repetitions and do them on the minute. But I also think they're a great power exercise that you could do at the beginning of a workout to incorporate there. This will help athletes to learn how to rebound instead of collapse. It will help reinforce aggressive hip drive. Like, we really want the hips to drive the motion. Making sure that we're doing a hinge motion, not a squat. So I see a lot of times people will kind of squat down and just pop out. Then it's more of a squat motion as opposed to the hip hinge. And that's why I say it's my third, the harder of the exercises. And you'll learn how to do the hip hinge in my first exercise. We want to make sure we have a neutral spine, that you're not rounding your back as you go, and you're also not hyperextending your back as you go. We're really looking at that chop motion. So we chop as we go down and pop as we come up. And we're keeping the shoulders relaxed. Same as when somebody's basing, as they're coming up and their shoulders are really shrugged up. We're not using the rest of our body to make that happen. We've got to keep those relaxed and keep our postural cues. Chin tuck, neck long, ribs, the core moves. If you're watching me on YouTube, you can see it. And I'm bending back and forth. If you're listening to me on the podcast on Spotify or iTunes, then you might not see what I'm doing as the chop and pop. So go check out the YouTube channel and you'll see all that. But that fast hip explosion, relaxed shoulders, and good postural cues with that are super important in making the swing be good. Some common mistakes, again, turning it into a squat, using your arm too much. You can make an argument for me to do a full swing like you'll see in CrossFit, where people will swing all the way. I think that's called an American style kettlebell swing. But I like the traditional strong first swing, where it's coming up and you're just stopping at about T level, but right in front of you. Because I think that helps to engage your core a lot more. And making sure you're not overarching your back. So at the top of the swing, you don't want to stick your booty out. You want to keep the ribs stacked over your pelvis. I've done lots of videos on how to get the pelvis and learning. It's a hollow position, but it's not in a full hollow. Like, we want to get a little posterior tilt, ribs stacked, as opposed to arching sticking your butt out. So go back and watch some of those videos if you haven't seen them. That'll help to train those posterior tilts and make the swing a whole lot easier. This can be okay for younger athletes. I prefer them to start with hinge drills, making sure they can touch their toes, making sure they learn how to get their hips back. Sometimes I'll have them do it on one leg. They may not use a bell, but again, use that chop and pop method. You could do it with a medicine ball, and then starting into light kettlebells from they're younger as well. and really just getting them to bend forward and snap up. Working on that movement quality first, you'll find a great workout just getting into that hip hinge and that bending forward slowly and quickly coming up and making sure they land in that plank position. I also, like the next level up, I might have them do what I call a hike and park. So you might start with the bell, that's a little bit heavier. Knees are bent and we bend forward, and you just very much like you're hiking a football through your legs and then parking it back in the same spot. So you tip it, hike it back, and park it back down. This one, you're staying down in that squat. It's like you want to feel a leg burn, add some hike and parks into your workouts. I will be doing a video on all of these exercises soon. So keep your eyes out for that, and I'll link it here later after I get it recorded. So you'll have some more visuals about this. All right. The next exercise that's super important to develop leg strength is a box jump. This helps to develop that explosive force and the power. So maybe you're working your roundoffs and you're just doing repetitions on that, but outside of practice, start to develop the power. Yeah, I know that this is off season, and yes, we are calling this off season, even though you're in practice because you're not actively competing. So now is the time to develop your strength and your power. So box jumps are a great way to do that. It's going to encourage upward power, so more height, really helpful for your jumps as well. And it reinforces the chest up position. We don't want to be landing with their chest falling down. It helps athletes rebound quickly between their skills, and it helps to train fast forwards transfer. So really like getting that fast off the ground and then making sure that we're landing softly and making those quiet landings, which is what we want to do. If you ever heard a cheerleader who lands their handspring or lands their round off and then that's really loud landing, that's like it's like working on a dead mat and trying to get a lot of spring like you would on spring floor. So soft landings helps with shock absorption and helps to develop that power as well. Athletic setup, I train people just to go to their knees, starting at a box that's maybe just below their knees. As you progress, you can get onto higher boxes if you can do the same landing and land with the same form. But at the starting point, go just about to knees. You're going to use an aggressive arm swing, so swinging the arms back. And then as you jump up, you're driving with your arms to get your legs up onto the box. You want to land softly and quietly with the knees slightly bent, but the chest is tall. This is an athletic stance. This is our ready stance for basing. It's our load-in stance before we get set up, that we're just, getting into that athletic stance. Super important that you take off in that position and we land in the same position. Some common mistakes, starting with boxes that are too high. Develop your skills on a lower step before you jump up onto a higher box. Making sure you're not pulling your knees and not doing a tuck jump. It's pulling up and landing in that athletic stance. And then making sure we're not landing in a collapsed posture as well. With your box jumps, you want to focus on quality, not exhaustion. I recommend doing 3 to 4 sets of 5 repetitions max in one session. And you could do different varieties of jumps, but the box jumps, like try to incorporate them twice a week. And then maybe you're going to do some other explosive like lateral bounds to develop other power at the same time. Making sure that your power training is different than your conditioning. This is, I think, plyometrics, so box jumps should be at the start of a workout. So you go through your warm-up, then maybe you go through your agility work, then you get into your jumping and your power development and your plyometrics. Then you do your strength work, then you do your conditioning, and then you do your stretching at the very end. All right, third most important exercise that will help with your handsprings is a single leg deadlift. And this, I think, is probably one of the most important exercises that cheerleaders maybe neglect to do. It helps improve unilateral stability, which we can develop much more strength and protect our joints when we develop that unilateral stability. So single leg stability. It helps to strengthen the back of your legs, your glutes, your hamstrings, and it works on foot control at the same time. It also works on your core because you need to keep your core stable and you need to keep your lats engaged, which we need our lats to be able to help us as we get over into that round off to be able to pull, and the lats will help kind of create that stability. So you want to keep those lats engaged as you're doing any deadlift, but a single leg deadlift too, especially. And it helps to build balance and body awareness. It's all very important. So on a strength end, you would include this, in that strength workout, maybe twice a week. How does this connect to cheering and tumbling? This cheer athletes are constantly transferring force, and we want to make sure that it's symmetrical, or we want each side to be symmetrical. If we transfer things in our hurdles and our roundoffs and our getting into our tumble passes, everything is like a transfer asymmetrical. So we need that separate leg balance. We want to train them evenly or try to make them come evenly, because inevitably you're going to land in a different position that you need that asymmetry. And to be able to do that, making sure that we have, make sure you have square hips, keeping the arms locked in tight. The posture cues go for everything, right? Chin slightly tucked, back of the neck long, the spine's long, the ribs are down, the pelvis is level. We are pushing with the hips to go backwards, and then we're driving the hips forward. We are doing it slow and controlled. I saw a couple people in the clinic this week that are just like, oh, I'm whipping through these. It's really easy. And I'm like, well, you're missing half the motion. You don't stand all the way up as you do this. We want to be able to reach through the back leg, and we want to come all the way up and get full hip extension. Stand all the way up straight in between. I'd rather have you stop and regain your balance between every single rep than to try and just rush through it. Some common mistakes I see: if we rotate the hips, as you bend forward and the hips rotate up, that's not maintaining that level spine. And it's going to throw mechanics off, and you're not going to work the glute max as well. I see people rounding their back. Sometimes this happens because they don't actually have the flexibility to do it. So I might have them use a stick behind their back and keep their back nice and straight as they go. My recent cue, I've been using a TheraBand, and I learned this from FMS, but a TheraBand underneath my armpits and holding the weight in the hand. They can't let the TheraBand move from the armpit and going forward. That really helps to get that back engaged and keep the back square. And then moving too quickly, like we talked about. You can progress all of these from body weight. So single leg deadlift will really get your hamstrings firing. Body weight, if you can't do it without wobbling all over the place, I have them do a kickstand. So the back foot is just lightly on the floor, just balancing like a kickstand, and then doing that same hip hinge and coming up. You could make it harder if you don't have weight by doing a reach. So reaching those hands forward and coming up, or if you want to train balance, you could do it and go into a clock position. And then you can dumbbell load it, single hand, double hand, kettlebell. Kettlebells are my favorite because they're just easy to work with and use. And you go down, you don't have to touch the ground with it, but you're going to have more control, and it sets a little bit offset balance. Another key point, making sure if you're doing a weight, I think fingertips, you're pointing your fingertips down and they're going to go towards your instep of the leg that's on the ground. So I would stand on my right leg, hold a bell in my left hand, or just use my left hand to point, use the band around my arm, underneath my armpit, to remind me to engage my lats. And I'm going to drive those fingertips towards my instep and towards my big toe. And that sets you up to be in the right position with that. So some common mistakes that coaches make with tumbling and strength training: only repeating the skill. And I know there's some cheerleaders out there listening to this that do the same thing. It's important to train your skill, and you should train your skill, and you should do your gymnastics class and your tumbling classes. And you also need to train to do your tumbling skills. More reps of tumbling doesn't make for better tumbling. It doesn't solve the problem. And you really can't out-rep a physical weakness. So you have to get strong enough to be able to do this. Strength training also is not conditioning. Keep that separate. You want to, so endless wall sits, you're going to feel your thighs burn, and sometimes that's great. But if you're just sitting there for 2 minutes, you're building endurance, but you're not necessarily building full-on strength. Doing high reps of circuits in like 45-second circuits, where you just go, 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 and not thinking about form. Better to have controlled sets and reps. And then just this goes along with that, fatigue-based workouts. I have a couple of clients that love going to Orange Theory or doing, I think CrossFit's actually better, fit body workouts. Again, they're great workouts and they're great conditioning workouts, but they're not designed to set you up to work at your form and to really work the control of it. They're designed to get your heart rate up. They're designed to get your endurance up. We're looking to build strength. So we want fewer repetitions, a little bit heavier of a load, and more control. A lot of coaches I see, and parents that I talk with, they ignore the posterior chain. Everybody talks about stretching the posterior chain. We want to stretch our hamstrings, make their heel stretches higher. But we then overtrain we work a lot of squats, but we don't work the back of the leg. We need our hamstrings and our glutes to be extra strong. Number one, that's going to help protect the knee. Number two, it's going to gain you more power to get off the ground with whatever you're doing, whether it's tumbling or jumping or stunting. Many coaches just focus on abs, crunches, more crunches, more crunches, maybe planks, but they're not necessarily thinking of, okay, are we strengthening the glutes, which actually have to get us off the ground? Are we training the abs to work in the right position without overtraining the abs as well? And so they undertrain the glutes, the hamstrings, and general hip extension. Another mistake I see is going too heavy too early. I 100% think that anyone who has the ability and has the mobility should be able to eventually lift heavy. Now, I can flat out pound the ground most of the time, sometimes not, but I can touch the ground. So I have enough mobility to be able to swing and to be able to do my deadlifts. But if I go and lift super heavy weight and I haven't trained this, or I haven't been lifting and doing it in a while, I'm going to try and pick something up and then not be able to move. And then I'm either going to be too sore or I'm going to lose my mechanics and lose my form. So I want to make sure as you're starting off, like lift a weight that's appropriate for you and making sure that you're not lifting too heavy, but allow yourself to lift heavier when it starts to get easy. When you can maintain form, you should try heavier. If you can't maintain form, drop the reps down and learn how to do it better and then progress on with the weight. We want to make sure we don't just train bilateral. We talked about that a little bit. The, two-legged squats or a two-legged deadlift, both excellent exercises, but that alone is not enough. We need to work on single leg control and stability. So single leg squats, single leg deadlifts, all of that to help train unilaterally and build the strength unilaterally for that asymmetrical work that we do. And really neglecting our landing mechanics. If you are a cheerleader coming down and landing locked leg and, landing out of your jump, or you're doing plyometrics, doing talk jumps, and you're coming down and landing stiff leg, you're setting yourself up for an ACL injury. We want to land and absorb the force. What does that mean? It means landing quietly, landing in an athletic stance where we're having control and our knees are just slightly bent and we're not dumping forward and we are not landing full on the squat or stiff-legged as well. So common question is, how young can an athlete start strength training? Well, I think really as long as they can kind of focus and pay attention is an okay time. And they can build strength as we go. Now, kids under, I'm going to say 12, but that's soft, like 10 to 14 range, they might do fine with doing strength training and be able to focus and follow a program. And then maybe they've developed enough coordination along the way that they're ready to go do that and be in the gym. But they have to have the baseline control. They need to be able to, set their body up in the right position. Younger athletes, younger than minimum 10, I like the 12 range, like under 12. I think on their strength end should be more play-based. It might be more conditioning, but they're going to work on some longer holds. Things like crab walking, crawling, rolling, jumping over obstacles, two-legged, one-legged, like single leg hops over obstacles, making it more play. There's no kid in the world, and you're not going to convince me otherwise. Like they can be super focused and they want to cheer and they're absolutely into it. But a 3 to 6 year old does not need to be doing 3 sets of 10 crunches or 3 sets of 100 crunches. They need to be crawling, and they need to be crawling under low obstacles and crawling over higher obstacles, stepping up and over, bending down to pick something up. You should make it a game. Okay, right over, you're gonna come over, and so that's a sprint. We're gonna work the legs. We're gonna then stand on one leg and pick up the balloon, and then we're going to put it down with the other leg. There's a million things you can do, but make it more fun for the younger kids. Not only is that going to keep them engaged, you're going to increase better mobility and flexibility with that, but you're going to help them develop coordination, which is really important when they then transition to go back to practice and learn their handsprings and skills. Climbing a ladder and really looking up here, if I go to change the light that's over my head, I'm going to tip over. But hey, if I'm changing that light bulb and I know that I need to have my chin tucked and I need to have it in front of me, that's going to teach me where my body needs to be. So training them in a way that trains their body, but also makes it fun and enjoyable, and challenges in different surfaces will be much better for the younger athletes. Now, over 12 to 14, they've got good form, they've got their mechanics, they absolutely should get in, and they should be lifting some weight. They're not lifting their PR the first time they go in there. They're going to progress it. They're going to start off with higher reps and lower weight, and then they're going to progress from there. We want to focus on body awareness. We want to focus on landing mechanics, coordination, balance, and basic strength patterns. Things like body weight hinges, again, that single leg or even double leg, jump and stick drills. So if they can't do a box jump yet, they're just going to jump straight up and land, kind of like a tuck jump, but not pulling the knees up. Instead, just trying to get as high and try to touch the ceiling and land and stick it. Working on carries will work their lateral core also, and challenges their strength, gets their lats engaged, which is really important. Grip strength is super important to help with every aspect of cheer, and holding weights will help to do that. And these are all things that the mid-range kids could absolutely start to do. Working on balance exercises. If you don't have enough time to work balance, when they're brushing their teeth, stand on one foot, or stand with one foot over the other, or stand on one foot and close your eyes. All that's going to challenge the balance and challenge the vestibular system, which will help, again, improve their balance and their coordination, and that will transfer over. You could also use some bands and pull downs as far as resistance wise goes, and light resistance. And once they get that, then building up. Remember, proper supervision. Make sure they know what they're doing. Don't just go send someone to pick up heavy weights. One thing you could do for the middle age, the younger, 6 to 10-year-olds, like, it's okay to ask them to carry a box for you. They're going to hold that in front and carry that. Now, if they can't push it, they shouldn't lift it and carry themselves. If they're lifting something and leaning backwards, that's probably too heavy for them. But if they can hold it here and they are keeping their shoulders relaxed and going and putting it from your bed to the bed in the other room, or from the car into, I have boxes in my car right now. I'm getting rid of some stuff from my mom, so it's a mess. But carrying them in front of you and keeping everything stacked is like holding a plank, and potentially like doing the swings and carries. Reps and sets. So swings, I like to use as conditioning. So at the end of a workout, you would do some kettlebell swings and maybe go for 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, or better yet, pair that. Do 10 swings, go down and hold a plank for 30 seconds, and do that for however long you have. Say it's 10 minutes, and just do that back and forth, on and off. You might do 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off. There's the varieties are endless, but use them at the end. If you really want to use a more power instead of a plyometric, you could make a case at the beginning, and then if you're doing a moderate weight, go for sets of 10 to 12 repetitions and do like 3 to 5 sets. If you're going heavier, then aim 5 repetitions of a swing and just, again, 3 to 5 reps. So you can mix and match those. We talked a little bit about plyometrics. I like 3 to 4 sets of 5 to 6 repetitions maximum, and really sticking those landings. And that can be any of that we talked about, but those box jumps especially. And then for the single leg deadlifts or any other strength work, looking in a 3 to 5 set range. So one set would be 8 repetitions and two, so you could do 8 repetitions, rest for a good minute, and do another set of 8, and then another set of 8. Or and then rep range, I want to look at 8 to 12 repetitions. So if you can do 12 repetitions pretty easily, you need to bump the weight up. If you can't do 8 repetitions with good form, then you need to drop the weight and bump it down a little bit. You can make a case for 5 to 6 reps for the younger kids. As the athletes get a little bit older, that rep range works really good. And as they're starting to learn, I like that range, and it's pretty easy to follow. So 3 to 5 sets, 8 to 12 reps. I like to cycle. None of us have time. My workouts, if I had to sit and do a set, and then sometimes you see people at the gym and they are just, they'll do one set of squats, they take up the squat rack, they don't move, they sit for 5 minutes in between, and then they do their second set. I don't know who has time for that anymore. None of us do in this chair world, right? So do your squats, do your push-ups, do your deadlifts, do a pulling exercise, circle through that, the however many times you have, and then move on to your conditioning. And that will move pretty quickly because you don't have to rest as long in between. So keeping that stacked in like a circuit. Again, the goals with the strength work is not to get your heart rate going and not to do the conditioning, but to build the strength. So you got to keep the form, and you got to be able to lift the weight and do the reps. But cycling like that won't take as long. So like a workout, I don't think a workout should take you. You can. If I'm going to do a full workout where I've got my mobility and I've got my plyometrics and I've got my strength, and then I'm going to do conditioning, and I'm going to sit and do a cool down at the end, that probably takes me 50 minutes, 50. If I'm running late and I only have 20 minutes, then I'm going to do my proper warm up, which is about 5 minutes. I'm going to go my circuit for my strength, and my conditioning will be at a different time. And that's okay. And then I'm trying to do a stretch, at least a quick stretch after at the end to just let things recover. And that can take you 20 minutes. Average, it's like 20 to 30 minutes. And don't let it take all day, but make it a priority to get this work in. So main takeaway I want you to know, better tumbling connections are not just about flexibility and repeating the skill. Often the missing piece is needing to get hip power, which you'll get from a single leg deadlift, you'll get from box jumps, and you can get from kettlebell swings. We want a posterior chain strength, which is the butt, all the butt muscles in the back, your hamstrings, which is the back of the leg, and your lower back as well. We think core, and we always think it's the abs, but we need to strengthen that lower back also. We need more stability. We need that strength and stability to go with it, and working on that control. We need to work on landing control. So if you were dead landing and that's where you're missing and absorbing, and it's going to be more likely to drop your chest forward. So work that landing control to really get that hollow position. And working on force transfer. As you come down and you land with your good control, we are automatically springing and getting the speed pushing off your legs to be able to get your handspring. Chair tumbling is not just about learning positions. It's about producing and transferring force while maintaining posture at a high speed. Let me repeat that. Chair tumbling is not just about learning the positions and the body positions. It's about producing and transferring force while maintaining posture at a high speed. So you have to put the package together, and you develop force and power by doing strength work and plyometric work, explosive power work. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask me. I'd love to know if there are other tumbling topics or jump topics or other topics like this that you'd like covered. I am in the process of developing an app and a program that will help. It's a 6-week program to help cheer athletes develop the strength and the power they need to be able to improve their tumbling and their jumps, and be able to, at the same time, improve their flexibility to help make their stunting be better and their jumps look prettier. I would much rather see a toe touch that has control, that maybe isn't quite as floppy high with the legs just going, but that nice control that hits at the top and they come down and they land it solid with a soft, quiet landing with their knees just slightly bent. I'd much rather see that than someone who's got crazy flexibility and not being able to control it. I think that's super important. And the same goes with tumbling. We want to have that control. The more you build that control, the better your tumbling is going to be. So if you're interested and you want more information, just I will leave a link in the. I'll leave you actually there's a PDF in the show notes. You can check that out, and if that's something that you're interested in, you can sign right up and learn more about that as we go. And I also will have my injury prevention starter kit linked in the show notes as well. So if you're interested in that, there's more information about how to prevent other injuries and why landing mechanics are just as important. There's plenty of warm-ups and cool downs in there to help you go. If this episode helped you, please share it with another cheer coach or parent. Please like and subscribe, whatever podcast, wherever platform you're on, because the more people subscribe and comment to me, the more people will see this and will help. You want to help your teammates. Maybe you want to help another fellow cheerleader that's out there. So share it with them and let's get these messages out and across to help everybody feel better, move better, and all this stuff. Don't forget to follow for more tips on helping cheer athletes to move better and perform better and stay healthier. Thank you for listening. This was a little bit long today, and I apologize for my coughing in between and the breaks. Hopefully, as I do the editing, it all comes out nice and smooth. Have a wonderful week. Don't forget, when in doubt, breathe out. Take life one step at a time. You are responsible for your own vibes. And as my friend Drew Kelleher used to say, you're responsible for your own vibes. I missed one in there. Don't forget, when in doubt, breathe out. Take life one step at a time. You can do anything you put your mind to. And as my friend Drew Kelleher used to say, you're responsible for your own vibes. Let's go get the day.